Most women have at some point felt the chilling, hollow echo of modern dating. That sensation isn't just a byproduct of bad luck or poor choices. It's the psychic consequence of a system fundamentally misaligned with the deep, ancient architecture of the feminine soul. We are living in an era of superficial connection, a fast food culture of human interaction where the profound is reduced to the transactional and the sacred is traded for the fleeting. This is the new emotional wilderness, and the emptiness you feel is the whisper of your own soul, telling you that something is terribly, fundamentally wrong. The great alchemist of the psyche, Carl Jung, spoke of the collective unconscious, a vast, inherited reservoir of archetypal images and motifs. For the modern woman, navigating the digital labyrinth of dating apps and fleeting connections, this ancestral wisdom is often drowned out by the clamor of the ego. The ego, desperate for validation, clings to external metrics of worth: the number of matches, the swiftness of a reply, the casual validation of a text message. It believes these fragmented signals hold the key to belonging, but in reality, they are merely hollow reflections in a funhouse mirror. The true self, the anima, yearns for depth, for meaning, for a connection that transcends the superficial. The anima is the inner feminine, the intuitive and soulful part of the male unconscious. But for a woman, she is the very core of her being, the source of her creative power and emotional wisdom. When she is silenced, when she is made to conform to a system that devalues her inherent worth, she rebels. This rebellion manifests as the pervasive sense of emptiness, the feeling of being seen but not truly known, of being desired but not truly loved. It is the psychic scream of a soul suffocating in a world that asks her to be everything to everyone but herself. The modern woman, in her quest for connection, often falls prey to the shadow. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, represents the repressed, unacknowledged aspects of the self, the parts we are ashamed of, the parts we deny. In the dating arena, the shadow often projects onto others. You might find yourself drawn to a man who embodies the very traits you unconsciously despise in yourself, a casualness you wish you had, an emotional unavailability that mirrors your own buried fear of intimacy. This isn't a random attraction. It's the psyche's desperate attempt to make you confront your own unhealed wounds. The unavailable man becomes a mirror, reflecting your own fear of commitment, your own reluctance to fully show up, your own deeply buried trauma. He is not the cause of your pain. He is merely the echo. To blame him is to miss the profound opportunity for self-discovery. The philosopher Epictetus taught that what disturbs us are not things themselves but our judgments about them. In the context of modern dating, it is not the ghosting or the mixed signals that cause the most suffering, but our interpretation of them, our ego's judgment that they signify our own lack of worth. The Stoic woman understands that her inner peace is not contingent on another's actions. She recognizes that the external world is a theater of impermanent events, and her true power lies in her response, in her unshakable inner citadel. The modern dating landscape is a test of this very principle. It is a crucible designed to forge a woman's psychological resilience, forcing her to confront her own unhealed trauma and her desperate need for external validation. The emptiness is not a sign of failure. It is the raw, unvarnished truth of a soul in need of individuation, the process of becoming whole. It is the deep call to stop looking for a man to complete you and instead begin the sacred, terrifying journey of completing yourself. This is the great work, and it is the only path to genuine, lasting connection. The great task, then, is not to find the right man, but to become the right woman, to become the sovereign of your own inner kingdom. This journey of individuation, as Jung called it, begins with a ruthless confrontation of your own shadow. The shadow is not a monster to be slain, but a neglected part of your soul to be integrated. It is the fear of being alone, the desperate need for approval, the envy you feel towards other women, the quiet fury at being misunderstood. These are not flaws, they are signposts. They point to the places within you that are wounded, unhealed, and starved for attention. When you can sit with these uncomfortable truths, when you can look your own shadows in the eye and say, "I see you and I accept you," you begin to reclaim your power. You stop projecting these unintegrated parts onto others, and you stop seeing men as saviors or villains. Instead, you see them as they are, complex, imperfect beings on their own journey. This is the essence of psychological maturity and the foundation of true self-worth. The modern dating paradigm, with its endless swiping and curated profiles, is a perfect incubator for ego projection. You are not interacting with a real person but with a digital avatar, a carefully constructed facade. In this vacuum, your ego is free to project its deepest desires and fears onto this blank canvas. The man in the picture isn't a human. He is a symbol of the security you crave, the status you desire, or the emotional depth you feel is missing from your life. This projection is a form of self-deception, a way of avoiding the difficult work of looking within. When the reality of the person inevitably falls short of your fantasy, you feel betrayed, not by him, but by your own unconscious deception. This is why so many modern connections feel hollow. They are built on a foundation of illusion rather than truth. The Stoic philosopher Seneca warned against being a slave to your own desires. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor, he wrote. In the context of dating, this means that the woman who endlessly craves a specific type of man or a specific outcome from a relationship is emotionally impoverished. Her happiness is contingent on external factors, and thus, it can never truly be her own. True emotional wealth comes from within, from a sense of wholeness that is not dependent on another's affection or validation. The ancient secret to fixing this emptiness is not a new dating strategy or a clever trick. It is a return to a deeper, more primal wisdom. It is the embrace of feminine polarity. The feminine, in its purest archetypal form, is receptive, magnetic, and creative. It does not chase, it attracts. It does not force, it invites. The modern woman has often been taught that to get what she wants, she must adopt masculine energy, the energy of pursuit, of control, of striving. This has led to a profound imbalance, a psychic exhaustion that leaves her feeling drained and resentful. When a woman is in her feminine polarity, she is in a state of being, not doing. She cultivates her inner world, her passions, and her purpose, not for the sake of attracting a man, but for the sheer joy of her own self-expression. She becomes a magnet, not because she is trying to catch a man, but because she is shining from within. This is not about being passive, it is about being powerful. It is about understanding that true power does not lie in the ability to control others, but in the unwavering ability to be fully and unapologetically oneself. The man who is worthy of her will be drawn to this light, this wholeness, this inner fire. He will not be a project or a fix-up. He will be a partner who sees her and honors her for the magnificent woman she has become. The true liberation from the emotional wasteland of modern dating lies in a profound act of psychological and spiritual detachment. This is the core tenet of Stoicism, the radical understanding that your inner state is your most sacred and guarded possession, and no one, not a man, not a text message, not an algorithm, has the power to disturb it unless you grant them permission. The woman who is a slave to external validation is a woman whose soul is constantly being auctioned off to the highest bidder of attention. She is perpetually in a state of emotional debt, her worth fluctuating with every fleeting interaction. The Stoic woman, however, has made a sacred pact with herself. Her peace is non-negotiable. She understands that the pursuit of external validation is a bottomless pit. It is a game designed to be lost, because it is based on the premise that you are incomplete without the approval of others. This is a lie the ego tells you. The truth, as Marcus Aurelius so profoundly articulated, is that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. It is a profound and terrifying truth, for it means that the emptiness you feel is not caused by a lack of a man, but by a lack of mastery over your own mind. This mastery is achieved through shadow work and individuation. It is the hard, honest work of confronting your own emotional patterns. Why do you chase men who are emotionally unavailable? The answer lies not in their nature, but in your own. Perhaps you learned in childhood that love was inconsistent, that it had to be earned or fought for. You are not chasing a man, you are chasing a ghost from your past, trying to fix a wound that only you can heal. Why do you feel a sense of frantic desperation when a man doesn't text back? It's not because his silence diminishes your worth, but because it triggers a deep-seated fear of abandonment. This fear is a wound, and the modern dating landscape is simply a stage where this old trauma plays out again and again. This mastery is achieved through shadow work and individuation. It is the hard, honest work of confronting your own emotional patterns. Why do you chase men who are emotionally unavailable? The answer lies not in their nature, but in your own. Perhaps you learned in childhood that love was inconsistent, that it had to be earned or fought for. You are not chasing a man, you are chasing a ghost from your past, trying to fix a wound that only you can heal. Why do you feel a sense of frantic desperation when a man doesn't text back? It's not because his silence diminishes your worth, but because it triggers a deep-seated fear of abandonment. This fear is a wound, and the modern dating landscape is simply a stage where this old trauma plays out again and again. The only way to break the cycle is to stop casting new actors in old scripts. You must become the protagonist of your own story, not a supporting character in someone else's. This is the essence of psychological sovereignty, the radical refusal to let your emotional state be dictated by the actions or inactions of another. The path to this sovereignty is paved with the difficult but necessary process of reintegrating the male-female unconscious. Jung spoke of the anima and animus as the inner feminine and masculine principles within each of us. For a woman, the animus is her inner masculine, the principle of logic, action, and discernment. In modern dating, many women have a wounded or underdeveloped animus. They use their masculine energy to chase and control, but they lack the healthy, protective aspect of the animus that allows them to discern who is worthy of their energy and who is not. A woman with a healthy animus has a strong inner boundary. She doesn't need to chase because her inner masculine principle is a powerful protector, a gatekeeper who says, "This far and no further." He stands guard at the door of her soul, allowing only those who are truly aligned with her worth to enter. This is not about building walls, it's about building a fortress. This inner balance, the powerful, magnetic feminine and the discerning, protective masculine, is the true source of a woman's power. It is the ancient secret. It allows her to be a force of attraction, not a force of pursuit. It allows her to choose, not to be chosen. She is no longer a seeker, she is a sanctuary. The path of the feminine sovereign is not a passive one. It is a path of radical self-possession and unwavering self-love. It is the deep internal work that allows her to look at the circus of modern dating and see it for what it is, a series of external events that have no power over her inner peace. She understands with the clarity of a stoic that her joy and her fulfillment are not dependent on a man's presence or validation. This is the ultimate freedom. When a woman is truly individuated, she is no longer seeking a partner to complete her because she is already whole. She is not chasing a feeling of being wanted. She is cultivating a profound sense of self-worth that radiates from within. This is not arrogance. It is the quiet, unshakable confidence of a soul that knows its own value, independent of any external measure. The ancient secret, therefore, is not a strategy, but a state of being. It is the conscious choice to stop playing a game that is rigged against your soul and to start living a life that is in sacred alignment with your deepest self. It is the daily practice of mindfulness and self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, advocated for a practice of daily introspection, of examining one's own thoughts and actions with brutal honesty. The modern woman must adopt a similar discipline. She must ask herself, am I doing this for validation or for my own joy? Am I pursuing this connection out of a desire for love or out of a fear of being alone? Am I truly listening to my intuition or am I letting my ego lead the way? These are the questions that untangle the knots of emotional dependency and reveal the truth of her own heart. The final act of liberation is the conscious release of the need for control and the embrace of a divine, intuitive trust. This is the essence of feminine polarity at its most potent. The woman who trusts herself, who trusts the universe, who trusts that what is meant for her will not pass her by, is a force of nature. She no longer feels the frantic need to orchestrate outcomes or to manipulate situations. She understands that her role is not to chase, but to become. She focuses her energy inward, on her own growth, her own passions, her own healing. Her garden is her soul, and she tends it with meticulous care. And as she tends her garden, she becomes a beacon, a lush and vibrant landscape that attracts not the desperate or the needy, but the truly worthy, the man who is also on his own journey of individuation, the man who is drawn not by her need, but by her light. This is the end of the emptiness. It is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new one, a journey of sacred partnership, built not on a foundation of mutual need, but on a foundation of two whole, sovereign souls choosing to walk together. It is a journey of true love, the kind that can only be found when you have first found it within yourself. The emptiness you felt was the call to this great work. It was the universe telling you that you were made for more than the transactional, the superficial, and the fleeting. You were made for a love that mirrors the depth and immensity of your own soul, and you have found it, not in another, but in the most important place of all, within you. Love is not found, it is built.